Hey guys, it's Christian, your local realtor, and for today's video, I want to talk to you about lowball offers. We're entering a slowing market where, it used to take 8 days to sell your home, now it takes 8 weeks. Used to get multiple offers, now we're lucky if we get one offer. So very different selling environment, and so we have to adapt to that environment and to get your home sold, right? Get the money in your bank account so that you can make the move onto your next destination. And so the topic is lowball offers and shadow lowball offers. And I want to kind of just run you through a few scenarios, both as a buyer and as a seller, so that you know what to be aware of and how to respond if this happens to you. Okay, so let's start off on the buyer side. Buyers are going to be salivating with this market, right? Prices are coming down and there's less competition, so they're thinking, oh, I can go get myself, a slamming hot deal. And if you watch these American TV shows, there's two brothers that go out and they find a home listed for $450,000 and they buy it for $320,000. Well, a couple of things to know about that. That is a fixer-upper for one thing. But what I want you to understand is that's happening in small local areas, towns. That's in Topeka, Kansas. That's not in downtown Seattle. That's not in downtown Vancouver or even Burnaby as well. Because in real estate, it's the local centers. That's where the value is always strongest and most resilient. It's when you move out, you drive out an hour and a half outside the city, that's where markets get softest, fastest, okay? And another thing, you see these from these traveling real estate gurus who give and hold these seminars. I've been in them, and they're quite interesting at times, but a lot of it is just nonsense. I remember going to one where the guy, his whole shtick was, hey, all you need to do is make 1,000 offers. All you need is one seller to accept. And that sounds like a really good idea, but I don't know if you have 15 years to make 1,000 offers. It's not the most practical approach. And again, I think this is working in small towns, not big cities. An example of this would be Fort McMurray, Alberta. That's a one-horse town north of Edmonton, where the oil sands is. And after the post-financial crisis, that town was hit hard. A lot of people lost their jobs, price of oil crashed, and the industry just was just barely treading water. Fort Mac was hit hard. And I'm sure you could have bought a home for $50,000, maybe even $100,000 off the selling price a year after or 2 years later. And I've talked to friends who are from Edmonton, Alberta, for example, the capital, and they say you can buy a condo today for less than it cost you 14 years ago. Now, if you told someone that from Vancouver, they'd fall out of their chair. They wouldn't believe that because here prices have more than doubled since then. In some cases tripled. But if you find those smaller communities, the Topeka, Kansas, the Fort McMurray, Albertas, yes, you can get slamming hot deals because there's just not a lot of real estate activity in those markets. Now, the second thing as a buyer, if you're throwing lowballs out and hoping that the seller will swing at that pitch and that you get yourself a good deal, it's going to work on fixer-uppers. It's going to work on what we call dog units, dog condo units in Vancouver, in Burnaby. Those are the older condos, the older stratas. Maybe there's some work coming up. They're doing a rain screening. That's a big project. Might cost $30,000, $40,000 to the seller. That's a tough sell. A lot of buyers they're gonna run away from that. Maybe the unit needs some fixing up. It needs new cabinets, new appliances, new floors, new paint. A lot of buyers don't want to do renovations. They don't know where to start. So those kind of dog units and the not so sexy stratas, yes, you can throw out some low balls there. If the seller's desperate enough, then maybe we can shave $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 off the asking price, right? But if it's a good new strata, they've got air conditioning, it's got a nice view, it's on a quiet tree-lined street, it's not going to go too low, just because there's going to be a demand for that type of product. Okay. Other types of units, other types of homes where you can get those good deals, I would say, are estate sales. This is where the family is selling the unit and the owner has passed away. Often I find the sellers in that instance, they just want to move on with their lives. They're not very greedy. And you know what? Grandma may have lived there for 30, 35 years. It needs renovations. I have found the best deals are on estate sales. Other types of homes might be if they're in a not ideal location. For example, you're looking at a cemetery, you got a freeway next door, something like that turns buyers off. Boy, you can, in a market like this, you can sometimes really shave a lot off the price. And things like a tea house. Tea house is a house that's on the end of there's a road where the headlights are shining right into your front windows, and that's what we call a tea house. Those types of homes are harder to sell. And for the Chinese buyer, that's considered a bad feng shui. All right? For us, it's just, you don't want the car coming through the front fence, I guess. Now, moving on. Now, let's say you're a seller, and a couple of things I've seen in the past are shadow lowball offers in slow markets. So what this means is, this is a term I've given where you have two buyers are working in concert. We do not know this on the outset. However, with my experience now, I can kind of see these guys coming a mile away. So I just counsel my seller and say, look, I don't think these buyers are all that genuine, sincere, or they don't look like they've got their ducks in a row. You just develop spider senses when you've been in the industry long enough. So what happens is one of the buyers will make an offer. Let's say you're asking $1 million and they offer something ridiculously low, like $810,000. And the purpose of that offer is not to try and buy your listing. They're trying to see how low you will come. So if you were to counter with a $920,000, you've kind of put your cards on the table and they say, aha, we know that they'll at least come down that far. Often then that buyer goes dark, and then the real buyer comes out from another, maybe several days later, and they start even lower, hoping to chew a little bit more off the asking price, or chew more off of your selling price, because they know they've gotten the information that you came down to $920,000 in your last counter offer. So you have to be aware of those. What I always suggest is just not to counter that kind of offer, right? Because they're not legitimate. And I can usually tell by the way their agent represents them, how they speak on the phone, have they qualified their client, can they speak to the bona fides of their client's financing. That becomes fairly evident quickly when someone's talking to me. Okay, and so you have to, and that would be the third point. The fourth point I would say to you is, when it comes to lowball offers, is just don't take it personal. A lot of buyers, they just can't help themselves. They want to try it, right? They're going to tell their buyer's agent, look, let's just try it. Let's see if the seller will take it, or let's see how far down they will come in their asking price. So what I tell my seller client is, don't get emotional. And I recall one instance where we got an offer that was some $30,000, $35,000 below the asking price. And my sellers got really emotional, and they're just getting so upset, and they wanted me to tell that buyer where to go. And I told my guys, it's okay. Look, tell me what you want. Okay, well, if that's what you want, well, why don't we counter a little bit above that? And I can't remember the exact number, whether we countered $20,000 or $30,000 higher, but whatever the counter was, I got on the phone with the agent, and you know what? Within an hour, we had an accepted offer, and they got the price. They even got more than they wanted. So that is achievable. You just have to be calm and rational about the process. You know, one strategy or motto I always have in the negotiation is I always say to my clients, hit the ball back into the other party's court and let's see what they do. And if they decide to walk away, you don't feel the guilt, right? We did everything we could do. It was the other party that decided to walk away, right? Because I don't want to live with regret, and I certainly don't want my seller to either. You want to do the very best that you can. And so that's a motto of mine. Well, look, I hope that this has provided you with some tools, some tactics, or just some mental frameworks with which you can approach a lowball on your listing, right? Or even if you're a buyer thinking about making one. You have to understand that real estate negotiation is sort of the final frontier. It's one of the last realms where buyers and sellers can just negotiate at will, right? It's not like walking into a department store where you see a price tag on the purse for $899. There's no room to negotiate that. You got to take it or leave it. It's not like logging on to Tesla's website and buying a Model 3 for $55,000 or whatever the price is today. And you know, it's take it or leave it. Real estate purchase, there's a lot of negotiation. You want to approach it with strategy, but also with some diplomatic tact. I find that can help a lot. So if you enjoy the content of the video, subscribe. We love having you. Do appreciate you spending some time of your day with us. At the very least, just give us a subscribe. And we see you next time.